let's look ahead. A way too early look, if you will, at the Super Bowl matchup between the Rams and the Bengals in LA. We have our panel back. We got Geoff Ulrich here, Pearce, Dietrich, AJ Scholz shifting over from hockey to pigskin. So an early look at the big game next Sunday. Geoff, how does the Bengals offense match up here against the Rams defense? So we know the Burrow-Chase combo that will end up facing Jalen Ramsey. We know how good he is and how elite he is and how the Jags screwed that up. We saw Brandon Ayuk have some success against the Rams. Maybe Higgins or Boyd can make some plays. So how do you break this one down with 13 days to go?
Yeah, I think it sets up very well for the Cincinnati Bengals. And we alluded to this in the first segment, but there's no quarterback in the NFL that was better under pressure than Joe Burrow this year. Yards per pass attempt, he gets the ball off. He can scramble a little bit, and he's done that more as he's gotten healthy and as the playoffs have progressed. He's probably going to do it a lot in the Super Bowl because it's the Super Bowl. You don't need to rest for another game. So, the Bengals, they'll run the ball a little bit. Joe Mixon is still an underrated running back who can break off those big chunks. He'll go for a couple yards, but still break off a couple big chunks. Also very effective as a receiver, though. So, the Rams are going to bring pressure. They're probably going to try and shut down Jamar Chase with Jalen Ramsey. It's not going to matter because T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon, it's enough to get it done. I think that this Cincinnati Bengals offense is in for another good game.
Pearce, do you agree with that?
I do. We're going to hear a lot about the trenches and the pressure on Burrow for the next 2 weeks, and rightfully so. But Joe Burrow has had almost no protection whatsoever, and he just keeps winning games. The Rams are third when it comes to sacks, but they also blitz at inside the top third in terms of rate of sack or blitzing. But when you look at pressure and quarterback knockdowns, they're in the bottom third in the league. So when they don't blitz, they don't get to the quarterback. So if they are going to blitz, then you're going to have open receivers. You can't double team Jamar Chase if you're blitzing. And if you even try to do that, then T. Higgins is going to be wide open. And if you look at the Rams stats, it kind of bears that out. They're in the bottom third when it comes to yards allowed, when it comes to yards after the catch, when it comes to missed tackles. They can try to play with fire and try to blitz Burrow, but if they miss, he's going to absolutely destroy them.
All right, so AJ, we know Burrow absorbed a record 9 sacks and that win over the Titans. He stayed upright against the Chiefs. I mean, Aaron Donald is going to be breathing down his neck.
Yeah, absolutely. But I agree with these guys. I think the Bengals will be fine here, and they'll scramble Burrow out a little bit. Maybe even call some intentional, get him out of the pocket, get him moving a little bit. Look, the Rams' bread and butter, especially in the postseason, has been the run defense. They allowed just 54 yards per game in the postseason here. And so I think they're going to try and force them to throw because they think they can shut down Jamar Chase. But I agree with these guys. I think if you try and do that, it's not necessarily going to pay off. And, from a betting standpoint, Chase probably needs to score if the Bengals are going to win this game. You can get him on the DK Sportsbook at plus 100 to score a TD. I love that bet all day, and I'll definitely take that one.
All right, how does the Rams offense match up against the Bengals defense? So we saw the Chiefs had their way with the Bengals in the first half, but then the Bengals came to play. So, Pearce, can the Rams use the KC first half to their advantage?
I mean, they can, and we've said this every week all season. Everyone matches up well against the Bengals on paper. They're not that good of a secondary. Their linebackers aren't that great. The one thing that they do well is get rush with their defensive line. And you saw the Bengals not get to Patrick Mahomes in the first half, but then they got to him in the second half, and Kansas City could not do anything. So if the Rams' offensive line can play halfway decent, or if the offensive line can block the front seven of the Bengals, then Kupp and Stafford are going to be fine. But I imagine if I'm the Bengals, you would just put Kupp in double coverage and just shut him down and let the other guys beat you. But if they're crazy and allow Kupp to be in one-on-one, then Stafford and Kupp can go for over 200 yards between the two of them.
Yeah, AJ, what's your take on this?
Well, I think the fact that the Chiefs were, that the Bengals were able to get to Mahomes 4 times doesn't really bode well for the Rams when you consider Matthew Stafford is significantly less mobile than Patrick Mahomes. I mean, part of the first half success by the Chiefs was the ability to move Mahomes out of the pocket, and that's obviously not going to be as big of an option for Matthew Stafford. So I agree with Pearce. I would bring some pressure on Stafford, maybe double up on Kupp, and then, let the other guys beat you, because I wouldn't have a ton of confidence that they can.
All right, what do we think, Geoff? Anything to add here?
I mean, look, the way you attack the Bengals is to try and just dominate them at the line with the rush game. And the problem for the LA Rams is that a lot of the rush game right now is being anchored by a guy in Cam Akers who, blew out his Achilles 5 months ago. So I like the Rams rush game. They tried to insert Sony Michel again last week, and he just looks like he's kind of checked out because he's been replaced by this dude who couldn't walk 2 months ago. So the Rams rush game is really not in a spot here to dominate this game. Now, that would be an interesting wrinkle if they were able to take over this game. I quite frankly, I think that's the Rams' best chance of dominating this game. But, we saw what happened at the end of last game. The Cincinnati Bengals have a very smart secondary. They bracketed, they double covered Tyreek Hill. It led to an interception. They're going to try the same thing against Cooper Kupp. And maybe Cooper Kupp breaks free for over 100 yards. But they're certainly going to put a cap on some of those big plays, and I think it's going to be enough. So I don't really like the way the Rams set up for them at all because I think the Bengals have a very underrated secondary, and I think that's going to come to fruition again.
All right, well, which team has the edge in special teams? Oh, man, Evan McPherson is fantastic for the Bengals. Florida guy, too. We've seen lots of these games come down to a kick. Plus, we're going to have tons of offers over on the DK Sportsbook, like longest field goal, over-under there for longest field goal. Which team will have more punts? Can't overlook the special teams on the Sportsbook, AJ.
Yeah, Emerson, I think you're right. I think Evan McPherson is what gives the Bengals the edge, in my opinion. Look, you started just the playoffs, 3 for 3, and over 50-yard kicks. He's been perfect the entire season, anything under 40 yards. So I'm going to look at some of those props that you mentioned here. Longest field goal made at over 47.5 comes in at -110. I like that. McPherson, like I said, he's been kicking 50-plus yarders for them in the postseason. The weather should be pretty good in LA there. And then longest field goal, if you pick the Bengals to get that, you can get -105. I like that one as well. So both these props to the kicking, and I'll go heavy Bengals because, McPherson has been just phenomenal all year.
Okay, Geoff, what are you going to be looking for here in the DK Sportsbook, like in the special teams department?
Yeah, no, I like the over 47.5 for longest field goal attempt as well. Matt Gay has a big leg. I mean, he's not as consistent as McLaughlin, obviously, but he'll get the 50-yard attempts, and we've seen Sean McVay is not scared to throw out Matt Gay for a 50-plus yard attempt. McVay actually likes to take the field goals as well. So I think that Zach Taylor, if you look at Zach Taylor's him going for it on fourth down versus sort of taking the field goal too, it's actually dropped this year. He hasn't been as aggressive. So I think you could also take the total field goals over 3.5 plus 110. I think there's a lot of reasons to be bullish on the over for the field goal attempts made in this game. You've got two pretty solid offenses, but also two coaches who sort of will settle for field goals. We have one very consistent kicker and at least one kicker with a big leg on the Rams.
All right, Pearce.
Yeah, I don't know which bet I would go with at this point because it's all very circumstantial. And like Geoff mentioned, both of these coaches are more than willing to settle for field goals, and I can't see that changing in this game. It's worked out for them so far. I mean, the Bengals have settled for field goals. They say, well, that's how you lose games on the road, by settling for field goals and not getting touchdowns. Well, hasn't seemed to hurt them yet, so I imagine they'll keep on kicking. And Matt Gay has been really solid this year, 32 of 34 on the season, 7 of 8 from 40 to 49. 4 or 5 from 50 to 59. As Geoff mentioned, he's got a big leg. They're both pretty good kickers. I think the narrative and just the clutchness means that the Bengals have a little bit of the edge here.
All right, who has the coaching advantage here, right?
Ooh.
Taylor versus McVay. Now, McVay's been to the Super Bowl before. And like we just mentioned, no shortage of bets on the DK Sportsbook that the coach has influence on. We're going to have number of third down conversions, number of fourth down attempts, and 2-point conversions. So who has the advantage, and is there a bet to be on the lookout for when the lines come out? Geoff, we know McVay's use of timeouts can be chaotic.
Mm-hmm. And Zach Taylor comes from the Sean McVay coaching tree.
He does, but I feel like his branch has been just cut off, and he's starting to grow his own tree now, to give you a nice poetic analogy.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I think there is a clear difference in these two coaches, and I think Zach Taylor does carry the edge here. He's a coach that just seems like I mentioned, he seems to have evolved a little bit this year, and it's shown out in some of the things that have happened throughout the year. This is a team that went really run heavy at the start, but if you look at Cincinnati, especially over the last 3 games, Joe Burrow has averaged over 36 pass attempts per game. So they're going back to a little bit more of a pass-heavy approach. And to me, that's really him playing the matchups. And again, the matchup here dictates that, they're going up against a Rams rush defense, which is top 3. I think that one thing you should be looking for is to take the over on things like Joe Burrow's passing yards, Joe Burrow's pass attempts, because I think that when you look at Zach Taylor and the way he's been calling games of late, that's something you should be able to take advantage of in the props this week. So when those come out, or if they're already out on the DraftKings Sportsbook, something to look for. In terms of third down, fourth down conversion rate, I would probably take the under on McVay. Like I said, he's a guy who likes to settle for field goals. So if there's anything out there, like will a coach go for fourth down? How many fourth down, attempts will there be? I think the under here is actually fairly interesting. I'm expecting Sean McVay to call a pretty conservative game.
All right, what do we think, Pearce?
Well, for me, you want to look at coaches, there's just kind of 2 dimensions. There's the X's and O's, and then there's the human aspect of it. You look at Belichick, and he knows how to do the X's and O's, and he knows how to motivate his players. When you look at these 2 coaches, they're a little bit different. McVay definitely is an X's and O's genius, but when it comes to motivating and getting his team to execute, play in, play out for 4 quarters, they don't get it done. And then you see kind of the opposite from Taylor, even though I think Taylor is a decent X's and O's guy. He's clearly a motivational quarterback or coach. He definitely understands the human aspect of it. His team was down 21 points at Kansas City. That game was over, and they found a way to come back. They found a way to stay in the other 2 previous playoff games. I tend to favor that type of coach. I'll take a Dick Vermeil over a Mike Martz any day. And I think Sean McVay, he can call the right plays, even though sometimes he does it. But keeping his team's head in the game, keeping them motivated, he lacks that. And I think the Bengals end up winning because of it.
All right, AJ, real quick. We got under a minute here.
Yeah, I agree with these guys. I give the edge to Taylor. I did not think we'd have a Dick Vermeil reference today. So kudos to Pearce on that one. Look, one prop in this kind of category that I'll throw out there real quick. The successful 2-point conversion comes in at plus 250 on the DK Sportsbook. I actually like that one, so go take a look at that.